Welcome to Friends with Fertility, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of fertility, reproductive health, and all the emotional journeys that are in between. I'm your host, Elizabeth King, a fertility expert dedicated to providing you with the knowledge, support, and inspiration you need on your path to parenthood. Whether you're just starting out, exploring your options, or looking for solidarity and advice, we are here for you. Let's embark on this journey together and turn uncertainty into empowerment and make friends with fertility. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to Friends with Fertility. Today we have Jess Tims. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
She is a certified fertility doula and a Reiki practitioner with a master's degree in communication. And most importantly, she is a mom who understands firsthand that the path to pregnancy is not always easy. Jess's own struggle with unexplained infertility inspired her to become certified to support women on their fertility journey. She uses a mind-body approach to support women through the ups and downs of infertility, pregnancy loss, and IVF. And she can be found online at Fertility Jess and lives in Long Beach with her family. First, I want to start by saying it's a small nuance that sometimes people don't really notice, but I, of course, notice all the time is the fertility versus infertility and the Fertility Jess as your handle versus infertility. I really appreciate that because I feel like just that small nuance of people saying, you know, my fertility is not as easy as I would like it to be versus I have infertility or my handle starts with infertility. I'm like, you're just putting it out to the universe that we're attracting all the infertility vibes. And so well done on that to start out because I know that as a professional in that way, it's a little bit of a conundrum sometimes because people are searching for the word infertility a lot when they're going through it. But I just want to say for anybody who is going through it, remember that our words have power and your fertility journey may not be what you expected it to be, but I promise you there's growth and expansion there, whether you recognize it or not, but just be aware of those two differences in the words there.
Yeah, I'm
So
so glad you highlighted that. And it is something that you can easily overlook. But I'm sure we'll get into it today, like the power of words and how everything's connected. And so it is important for me to use fertility as often as I can because it does
mhm,
matter.
yes. So what was your own story? Share that with us if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So I love sharing my story because when I was in it, it's like I felt so alone, and hearing other people's stories really helped me feel not so alone. So
Mhm.
um my story was a little unique in the way that it started. My now husband had this like terrible divorce, and I ended up calling off a wedding, and then we found each other shortly after, and we had this like beautiful love story. And I felt like we had just gone through such a hard love story, right? To find each other that, now we've done the hard things, and now we're, happily married and
Right.
in love, and let's like have
Check the
babies.
box of hard and move on.
Yeah, yeah. And my husband's 11 years older than me, so it was really important for us to start trying right away. We knew we wanted kids, and we were, happy, healthy, all the things. I had regular cycles. I had no reason to think I wouldn't get pregnant right away, and it just didn't happen. And it took over 2 years for me to conceive, and in that time, like type A me, I was like, I need answers. I want to know more. And I felt this big void of like, I don't know enough.
Mhm.
And so that really started the research journey. And then I had this amazing doctor, and I ended up using some assisted technologies to get pregnant. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until after, we had the 2 years, finally get pregnant, have this beautiful birth, delivery, all of that. I started working with an energy practitioner kind of in motherhood. Like motherhood throws all these things at you, and there was still all this stuff that I felt was really challenging. The same feeling that infertility had brought, like I still had that. So her and I started working together, and we pulled through all of these memories of there was like sexual abuse in my past that I had forgotten about. And a lot of like people pleasing was in my past. I was
Mhm.
raised to just always people please. And all of that energetically lives in the sacral center, which we can dive into. And when all of that came out in this, literally the first thing I said was, it is a miracle I ever got pregnant, because knowing that that was such a part of my upbringing, and it was purely blocking, right, a lot of my abilities to get pregnant. And so now that is how a lot of like what I do now with clients and working with people, we talk about that, the energy part, right? There's a lot of the body part I didn't understand. I didn't understand ovulation and all of that, but then there was also this energy component. So for me, it really was about the amount of time it took to learn all of that. It took me over 2 years and longer to really put all my pieces together to see
Right.
big picture. There wasn't just this one thing, right, that I could change. It really was this whole puzzle that was contributing to me just not getting pregnant. And I had the classic like unexplained infertility, because medically there wasn't anything diagnosable, right? There wasn't anything going on. So
Right.
um that's how I got here.
Which can be, I mean, there's so much we can unpack in your story, I feel like. And also, I want to say for those that also have unexplained infertility, so frustrating, right? Because if you had a reason, you could say, okay, I'm going to take metformin and this is going to work, or I'm going to
Yeah.
do this or that and that's going to work. But to just say, no, everything looks great, that's when we start to work on this energetic side of things, on the spiritual side of things. Okay, if I'm checking off all these boxes and I have checked with a medical person, because I feel like sometimes people are so adamant about, I really want to do this naturally, but they're not getting pregnant. Let's just make sure that
Yeah.
everything is good, right? God willing, it is. But then we can start to unlayer that onion a little bit of what else is there. When you say that the abuse that you had forgotten about, that's very, very common. And I think people don't recognize once they've gone on to live their life successfully as an adult, they don't, they sometimes can forget about that as a protection
Mhm.
situation, and or something that had may have happened in their lineage, right? Maybe it wasn't your own abuse, maybe it was your grandmother or your mother or your father or whoever, and or on your partner's side. So I think taking into account and getting everybody's stories of what was your life like, because that can also affect your fertility. And the reason that it comes to fertility is because we're creating life, we're creating this aspect of more of that lineage going on to be in the world as we know it. And so, therefore, if there's some type of energetic block that needs to be healed, maybe again, not from you, maybe from your grandfather, you could be the one, the conduit, the steward that needs to work on that to get that cleared. And, or maybe it is for you. So, I love that you were open to saying, okay, what else can be here to help me do this, even though it was after your actual birth, because I think they often come at times where we don't really expect it. For me, it was during the process of fertility that I was like, okay, let's do the past life work. Let's do this work. Let's do that, because I was so desperate to figure out all the things, because I didn't have time on my side because I started at 40, but
Mhm.
also to know that had the knowing that I was bringing 3 souls to this earth. And also there was something bigger happening that I needed to get my hands around. And as much as we try, we may not be able to do that to its complete extent. And it is a journey in that, and finding somebody like Jess that can help you through that is really important, because it could be multiple sessions of healing something. It could be you figure out this trauma from a childhood situation, and then 2 sessions later something else comes up. We evolve as people, and so I think that it's really important to stay open and curious about what can help us, not only us but our future lineage and epigenetics that go on after us. So that curiosity for you obviously looked like Reiki, it sounds like. And
Yeah.
was it kind of one and done, like you were hooked first time you did it and you're like, this is amazing? Or how did that go for you?
Yeah. So, great question. So, in I knew after my journey, like I wanted to support women who were experiencing what I had experienced, because it felt so hard and it felt like it didn't need to be that hard.
Right.
And so I just started offering support to family and friends, and then, working with clients. And it really looked at that time, at the early days, was a lot of like the mind body connection piece of
Mhm.
understanding, like, yeah, we got to talk about the body, but like, let's manage the mind too, and all the emotions that get brought up. But there
Right.
was still this missing piece of like, there's this magic component, right? Of like this piece of out of our control. And so that's where Reiki came in for me. I wanted more, like another tool
Mhm.
to support women with. And really it found me. I didn't have like a history with Reiki. I had never done Reiki. I wasn't
Mhm.
familiar with the word. And then I connected with someone and had a Reiki session, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is the thing. Because at its core, Reiki is just working with energy, and in the body, we are energetic beings. And so I was like, oh, that's the tool.
Mhm.
So going through Reiki training and all the different levels, and then being able to use it with clients has really helped kind of bridge that gap between what we have control over with the physical body, but then that kind of magical side, the energetic side. And I've really found that it helps on so many levels. It can obviously help with the physical body with relaxation and aligning, but also manage those emotions, and really help you feel more connected with yourself as you go through it. So that's kind of how Reiki came into my world.
I love this again for so many reasons because Reiki is one of those things that kind of reminds me of acupuncture where people are like, "Well, should I do fertility acupuncture?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
from my perspective as your coach, if you're going to be laying on a table for an hour and you're going to be focused on regulating your nervous system to an extent, yes, because that's going to help. And the same thing goes for the energetic healing. I really believe in it in many different areas. In fact, I've done it for myself after surgeries. I've done it for
Yeah.
my niece, or my cousin was just having some back issues. I'm like, have you tried or thought about going to a Reiki healer? Because I do feel like there's a lot of underlying energy work that goes on with a lot of physical pain that's happening
Hmm.
and manifesting in people's bodies.
Hmm.
But also, I think just the idea of, again, being open and curious of what else can my journey bring to my healing process in creating this life. And in that, in you helping now people with their fertility journey and moms coming into the world, what have you noticed is kind of a number one common thread that you see?
Yeah, such a good question. So with with infertility specifically, I really believe that it's the body telling you something else is going on. Like, there's something not aligned here. It's manifesting itself as infertility, but there's something energetically going on, right? And it's our job to figure that out.
Mhm.
And so if we look at the chakra system, we have the seven main chakras along the spine, and fertility is linked with the sacral chakra. So just below your belly button, where our beautiful uterus is the sacral chakra. And that energy center is responsible for a lot of things. One is creation, like being creative, but also it's like our manifesting center. So if you're not seeing in your physical world what you want or what you desire, that's coming from your sacral. So that can be in the way of like your work, or like your living situation, like those types of things also come through that. It's also where our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with others lives. It's our personal power center. So the root chakra is our communal power, and then we move up to the sacral, which is our personal power. So when I work mostly all with fertility.
Mhm.
And so it is typically what I see the most of is relationship with self or others, like challenges there either. And it looks different, but like not being authentic to you and your desires, like the people pleasing part of me, right, was that.
Mhm.
um or finances live here, so there's some type of financial block or desire or something there. um and then creation. So if there's, obviously we want to be creating life, but if there's also like a project or some type of thing that you want to bring into the world, like writing a book or something, that's not being done, and then that's creating a block. So it's so interesting because while it's tied to your fertility because it's physically living in the body there in that space, it could be about all these other things,
Right.
which is so what I love about Reiki is because it's going to bring that out for the client.
Which is when you're on the journey, so helpful and creates so many of those aha moments of like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, maybe, maybe that can give me some a puzzle piece to why this isn't happening. And when you're on it and you're frustrated because it's not working the way you want it to be working and getting that positive pregnancy test, to get those answers to open up your mind and your heart to say, okay, this is making sense. I'm getting closer. This is progress to me
Mhm.
getting closer to being a mom. And that progress creates hope. And when there's hope, that desire gets stronger, and when that desire gets stronger, the fear gets less, and we're able to continue this process and in a stronger emotional spiritual way, because we have this again deep knowing that I will be a mom. This is just
Mhm.
part of the journey in getting there, and part of doing the work and getting there. And in your story, as you said before, like you were surprised that you did get pregnant based on what was happening underlying, and that's where I go to the spirit babies and the contracts between the mom, dad, and the spirit baby. It was time for that spirit baby to come in, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes it's not up to us about what's going on, and we wanted it to happen yesterday or whatever it may be. But at the same time, there's also always this underlying bigger picture at play that we have to surrender to. And
Mhm.
sometimes when you're not familiar with that expression of surrendering and what that looks like, and also the the spirit realm of these contracts, it's harder to get our head around of like, oh, okay, I wanted it at that time because I was 41, but this baby, he wasn't ready, or my husband wasn't ready, or my other son wasn't ready for this energy to come through. So taking all of those things into context, I think when you're on it, helps to make sense of a situation that doesn't make sense. When you feel like I am checking off all of the boxes, I'm doing everything that I possibly can do. That's when it's really helpful, I think, to heal these other things that come up and just again be curious to what is in store for you.
Yeah, and the beautiful part about Reiki and going through like a Reiki session. So if somebody's not familiar with what that is, it's kind of like a massage, right? But you're fully clothed and the practitioner uses their hands to move energy through the body. Um, and even that practice alone, kind of how you touched on with the acupuncture, it's going to just bring more of like a healing energy to the body. It's going to allow your systems to really operate as they would normally, right? Without
Mhm.
energy blocks, kind of promote self healing in the body. So even that alone can help manage all of that stuff you just talked about with the like not knowing and the questioning and all of that. The sessions really bring like a peace and tranquility to clients, which is so beautiful to see during a time where it just feels, really frustrating or confusing or all of the things.
For
Um,
sure.
so there's that
I
piece
remember
also.
myself going through, I can remember exactly, I don't see this girl anymore, but that room, doing the Reiki session, I would cry. I would
Yeah.
be going in there. So again, desperate really was the only thing that I could say is, one, why isn't it working? And, or it being my body. Two, why was I losing babies? Why would they come and then go and that sort of thing. So I so vividly remember that experience of the healing that came from those sessions, and I did them religiously because I really felt that no matter what came up, it was important for me as a person and me for my spiritual being to continue to heal from really the heartache of
Yeah.
all the experience, right? Of like not getting the
Mhm.
positive test every month, or trying to figure out why I was having these losses or whatever. It was that little moment of an hour that I could have for myself to say, okay, I'm going to take a minute out of work and I'm just going to work on healing and loving myself through this
Mhm.
process. And that alone I think is priceless, because we just don't take the time to stop to do things on that subconscious, deeper energetic level. So I really love the people that hold the space for others that are going through it. And to your point, it's one thing to go through the fertility journey, but then the next to have, this fourth trimester with being a new mom, and then it just continues to go on, which for me I'll say for myself, it's still a journey because I have 3 boys. I'm my way of being is very normally calm and pretty chill, and the environment that I'm in is not that anymore. And so to
Yeah.
regulate my nervous system to something else, I have to do the work on myself because this is my reality now, right? I don't have 3 little girls that sit in color and are quiet and playing with dolls. That is not the reality that I have. So it's a continuous journey of evolving as a person. And Reiki is one of those things that often helps me to connect with myself and my nervous system and my adrenal system and everything to adjust to motherhood of what that looks like for me. And I'm sure it's, again, it's evolved from newborn stage to now, you know, 5, 6, and 7-year old. But um it is a journey, and I think it's a part of holding not only yourself up energetically, but having that community of somebody else to be there to hold the space for you.
Hmm.
And
And
what is
what
that like for you to be in that energy of somebody else as you're doing it?
Yeah, it's so beautiful. It really is because it's funny. It's so my teacher, she says it best. She's like, when you move out of the way, so when I move out of the way and just let the energy do its thing, that's when the best results happen. And it's so true. It's not about me at all. It's not about my energy. It's just about the client, their energy, and then this universal life force energy, which Reiki
Mhm.
is channeling. And it's so beautiful to facilitate that work and that clarity that comes through a session, and really giving people back kind of a piece of themselves that they've lost right in the process.
Right.
It is so rewarding. It's so neat.
Mhm.
I absolutely love this. It's like a gift. I call it a gift. Like it's such a gift in this life. Hmm.
That's awesome. I love it. I can see you light up as I do when I talk about the babies and the
Yeah.
pregnancy tests and the ultrasound pictures and stuff that I get from people, and it there is nothing like it. It's such a beautiful experience to be part of the journey with somebody.
Yeah, and something that I thought of when you were talking about like your boys, I have a son too,
Mhm.
and so I'm the only female in this house, and it reminded me of Reiki is such a feminine process, right? Like it's such a feminine energy and a feminine healing, and we live in such a masculine world where we take infertility from a masculine perspective. We want to know, the why, we want the explanation, we want all of that quantifiable data and answers, which we can get sometimes. But when we can't, welcoming in that feminine side can really help ease this journey, right? So, and open up that space because at the end of the day, fertility is a feminine process. And sometimes we're just lacking that part of the healing process.
Agree.
And that's where I think Reiki also helps bolster that.
Agree. I think there's a lot of people still that are maybe uncertain about Reiki and or energetic healing, or breaking the unconscious mind, you know,
Yeah.
thought patterns and things like that. But at the same time, I feel like we're getting more traction about people getting on board. And I say that it also sounds strange to me to say it out loud because these practices have been going on for thousands and thousands of years. It's that they were taken away from people in normal society because somebody would say, no, you need to follow this direction or that's not allowed or whatnot. And now we're going back to this magical way of the way that it was, where we did heal from nature and we did heal from energetic people coming to us and saying, instead of calling the MD doctor, they call the Reiki person over, or they call whatever it may be. And I think we are getting closer to bridging that gap to
Mhm.
understand that there's more than just the Western side of medicine, and that the Eastern side is now playing almost an equal role in that, and understanding that it's not one or the other, it's both. And how do we do that in a way that feels good and productive while also not abandoning the whole, Western side? Because like I said, I've
Yeah.
seen people that really do need medicine and medical intervention and things like that. But also, we can't have one without the other. And that's kind of been
Mhm.
my spiel from day one. We can't talk about the spiritual side if we have blocked tubes. It's just not going to
Right.
happen. We can do
Yeah.
all we want, but we're not going to create this, immaculate conception. So I
Mhm.
think understanding too, if you have questions about these alternative ways, have a conversation with somebody, follow them on Instagram, see what it's like. It's not this huge woo woo thing that's just started. It's been thousands of years that people have been doing this.
Yes, and I'm so appreciative of your perspective where it is Western and Eastern together. And I feel like we are at a point in humanity where we have evolved to have all of these tools at our disposal. Like it's another tool, just like IVF is a tool, just like, taking Clomid would be a tool. So we don't just have to rely on one. We can pool all of these as resources to address all the layers of ourself. So the physical, the mental, the emotional, and spiritual, and really treat all of those layers, not just the one. And it's such a beautiful place that we are in now where we can, pull. And I'm with you, like, you can't think your way pregnant, right?
Right.
But we have all these great tools, and it's time that we start using them.
Absolutely. Well, how can people find you and work with you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm on all the social media at Fertility Jess. Fertilitygess.com is where all my current offerings are. The beautiful part about Reiki is you can do it in person and virtually. So energy work can also be done virtually. So it's accessible, which I also love. Um, and so if somebody has questions or is just curious and wants to learn more, you can find me there at Fertility Jess.
Well, thank you again for your time and being here and what you do to help support the community along with having babies.
Thank you. Thank you for being open to Reiki and this conversation. I'm so appreciative.
Yes. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Friends with Fertility. We hope that you found the stories, insights, and tips as inspiring and informative as we did. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Your friends with fertility are here for you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and more fertility resources. Until next time, stay hopeful and keep believing in your journey, and know that we are sending you lots of love.